Hey everybody, it's Ozone. We're back here in the update hut, ready for the latest greatest update to come out, Update 15. This one has been a long time in the making. It's also very highly anticipated because it's the update that they're using on the brand new Season 4 of the official Vault Hunter SMP. And it contains a whole bunch of new features that people have been eager to get their hands on. But it's also been one of the strangest update releases that we've seen in a while. The update itself came out on Tuesday, we had a couple hotfixes, and then the patch notes themselves came out on Friday, which would be why this video is so significantly delayed behind the actual release of the patch itself. Now furthermore, I'm not even terribly sure what to call this. Is this Update 15? Or is this Update 15 Part 1? The patch notes say Part 1 in the title, which implies that there will be a Part 2. And I found another Discord post that seemed to back this up. But I haven't been able to find any official explanation about Update 15 and whether this is complete or just a part. It's all a little strange. And with all of these new features come an awful lot of things to talk about in this update. Honestly, Update 15 is probably the biggest update in a full year, maybe more, and I would say is comparable to Update 9 in terms of scale and scope. It's also been one of the buggiest updates that's come out in quite a while. I myself have been affected by one of the bugs and unable to load up this test world until the most recent patch 2. But even still, there's reports of continuing problems with updating worlds from previous versions. A lot of people are going to be starting fresh with Update 15, but if you have an older world that you've been playing for a while, absolutely make a backup. Make a backup. But with that out of the way, let's dive right into the brand new updates here in Update 15. Probably the biggest feature and the change that most people are most excited for is the brand new Bingo Objective. With the Bingo Objective, well, you're playing a game of bingo. And as you can see, there's a slightly smaller bingo card up at the top with some mini quests that you can do to complete that upper row. We have loot 50 wooden chests, flawlessly kill dwellers, 4 of them, and flawlessly kill 29 hordes, or 1 kill champion. But that's just that top row, and you don't have to do that. By default, pressing the tab key opens up the large bingo card where you can see all of the objectives. Like the Vault Hunter, there are several categories of things that you can do, looting certain kinds of chests, killing certain kinds of mobs, etc. And to change the selected bingo, use the scroll wheel on your mouse. This cycles through all of the possible combinations of bingo before coming around to the beginning one. So if you want to start tracking this line on the bingo card, for instance, scroll down to here and then release tab. Now we see that the objectives are shown up above for that particular line. Now, in addition to the major categories like looting chests, there's also several individual attributes that apply to some of the things. So like in this row that's selected, we have rapidly kill dwellers or rapidly loot gilded. And that means something special. It means you have to do all of the dweller kills or all of the gilded looting within a 6-second window. This one at the bottom row says silently loot living chests. Well, that means doing so without damaging any mobs. And if you damage any monsters between looting the first living chest and the 12th living chest, the whole thing starts over. And in this example row, we have flawlessly. Flawlessly means to kill all of these things without taking any damage yourself. And there are even more modifiers. Primitive says to do it without using any mana. And then there's even some that have to be done in combination. So as you can see, these mini quests really change up the nature of the game. You're not just trying to run in, loot things, kill the mobs, and complete the objective. No, you're trying to loot things in a specific way and kill the mobs in a specific way in order to complete the objective. And pretty much anything you can do in a vault can be on this bingo card. As you can see, as you're going around and looting chests, for instance, the counter up there for looting wooden chests increases. And notice that the flawlessly killed dweller has a check mark next to it and is now dark green, which means that objective has been completed. It's important to note that once you complete a bingo, you can leave, but you don't have to. In the spirit of greed is good, as this gal likes to say, you can keep on trying to complete additional bingos on the card. So since we got this top one, maybe now we'll go for this one, since I've already got the kill tanks objective also completed. We need 6 vendors and rapidly loot 7 gilded chests in order to complete a second bingo. And for every bingo that you complete, the completion crate itself gets juicier, gets better. But when you do want to leave, you need to find one of these things, a grid gateway. You can find them earlier in the vault and they will not have any particles from them. But once you complete the objective, you get a little notification saying grid gateways are now open, and that means that you can right-click it in order to end the vault. Now, the patch notes don't really say how rare these things are, but they don't seem to be all that rare in my experience. Based on my experience running around this vault, these things exist in every common room. I think I found one of the special ore POI rooms, and it didn't seem to have one in it. But if it's a regular room, one of these things seems to be in every one of them. And like every other objective, just right-click it to complete. Like most vault objectives, you can force this as an objective on your crystal by using a Seal of the Prophet, which, all things considered, isn't that bad to craft. You could certainly craft it much earlier in your vault experience, but these are meant for level 50 on. And as a matter of fact, they'll start showing up on your random vaults starting at level 50. Which leads us right on into the next big change in the game, and that is the new cards, decks, and deck building aspect of it. Starting at level 50, every completion crate will have a booster pack in it. These things right here. They look a lot like the old relic booster packs, but they're not the same, and those have been removed anyway, which again I'll get to later. There are a few different varieties of booster packs. This time I happened to get a stat booster pack, but they all look mostly the same. And when you use them, they give you the choice of being able to select one card. Cards have a number of different attributes to them, but the color is one of the main things. Here we have green and 2 yellow, but they also give you a stat. Copiously, knockback resistance, or attack speed. I always like my mines, so let's go with the copiously card. Now each one of these cards gives you a very, very small boost in some specific attribute. Like I said, this one gives me copiously, and it is a yellow card. And you put these together in a deck. Now, your first deck is really easy, and you have to make it. It is the starter deck that we find right here. It's a lot of silk, but otherwise really easy to make. Now, obviously, with a name like Starter, it implies that there are other decks, and, well, there certainly are. But let's start with this one. The starter deck is small and simple. A little simple square shape, and you put your cards in there. Obviously, here we can only hold 9 of them, but there are other decks with more slots and other configurations. The deck itself goes in the special curio slot here, called your card deck, and you carry it with you into your vault. And basically, all of the cards in your deck take all of their attributes and combine them together to give you essentially a piece of vault gear with those stats. Now I went ahead and opened up a few booster packs to fill out my starter deck, and as you can see, all of the items that we get from each of the cards now show up as a cumulative, I guess, effect on the deck itself, showing you that basically you can build your own stats as you want. Now this is a rather hodgepodge mix of things, which is likely what you're going to have when you first get started. There are also some foil varieties of cards, and sometimes these do things differently, although both of these foils add copiously, and they don't work in the way that I've seen on the streams. Sometimes foil cards especially will have special attributes that say they'll add things based on the cards around them, and so the layout of your deck can also start to become really important as you get into some of these more powerful cards. Again, these don't seem to be any different. This foil copiously is the same as this regular copiously, at least in terms of the amount of benefit that it gives. But there are some foil cards out there, and they're generally better, as from what I understand, and so be on the lookout for those. And now the really, really amazing thing about having a deck in this slot is you get these effects whenever you go into the vault, and there's no durability. They never break. They never go away. You can't lose them in any way. Like these trinkets. You know, your trinkets have a certain number of uses, but your decks do not. And so this is an incredible way to, one, get essentially free stat boosts once you get to level 50, and 2, be able to customize those stat boosts as you go into the vault based on your playstyle or your skill set that you currently have. Now, like I said, you get at least one booster pack for each vault completion. If your completion crate is better because you got multiple bingos, for instance, then you might possibly get more than one. And there are different types of booster packs as well. I've only shown stat because that's all I've been able to give myself. But there are arcane, resource, temporal, and evolution booster packs as well. Additionally, you can also find decks in the completion crates and in the black market, and there are a number of new styles. There are larger ones, but then there are special color-themed decks as well that have special layouts. Now that's some luck for you, a Mega Arcane booster pack. So in addition to the different varieties, like I said, Stat, Arcane, etc., there are Mega booster packs as well. Let's see if I can get this one. It's very subtle, but the Mega booster packs have a small M in their icon. Like I said, it's very subtle. And when you use them, you get even more choices. Now, because this was an arcane booster pack, you see we get cards that affect the abilities. So if you like to use your Ice Bolt, which is one of the brand new abilities we'll talk about in a little bit, well, this one can give you +1 level to that. And these are basically free skill points. Here's where we start to get into some of the special conditions. This one gives you a level of rejuvenation if there are between 2 and 4 green cards in your deck, because this one happens to be green. So this is where your deck configuration and the colors of the cards can really start to play an important part. Now eventually, of course, you're going to have a whole bunch of extra cards. You know how it is in a card collecting game. You got to go through a lot of cards to get the ones that you want. And the extra ones, well, they just sit around and pile up. But, of course, in this game, you can extract the essence from them using this new card essence extractor block. It kind of looks like a little blender, doesn't it? Which has a crafting recipe that, while a little strange, flower pot? Dispenser? Isn't that bad for the level that it's intended, which, a reminder, is level 50. Much like the Soul Diffuser, putting a card in here should extract the essence out. And that is when you give it a redstone signal. Aw, we didn't get to see it. That's better. Now we can continually feed the cards in and see them get extracted. So extracting a card seems to just increase this number, which I'm guessing has to do with the tier of the card. Now putting another card over on this side says it requires 10 essence in order to upgrade it. So let's see what we can do. Aha! You can only upgrade certain kinds of cards, and this is not one of them. They have to be a stat card or an evolution card. So there we go. Now we can upgrade this card, and we get a tier 2 red, which looks like it doubled the percentage of resistance on it. Now, if I duplicate this and juice this card, do we get 2? Whoa, we get 8 out of it. That's not what I was expecting. But okay, that makes it even easier to upgrade again. Oh, we need a little bit more essence to upgrade to the next tier, huh? There we go. Now we can take this percent resistance card and upgrade it again, giving us another 0.5 percentage of resistance and to tier 3. I don't know what the maximum tier is. I think it's maximum 10, but I could be wrong on that. But overall, you get the idea of the process. Rather neat, I'd say. The idea of requiring a redstone signal in order to actually do the extraction, though, while following in line with the Vault Altar, it doesn't follow in line with the Soul Extractor. So we're getting a bit of inconsistency here on these kinds of blocks. But it's an interesting process nonetheless. So overall, I'm pretty excited about the card system that we've got. It allows for an immense amount of customizability, which is something that the game was lacking a little bit. I mean, you get a lot of customizability from the gear, but that's also very random. This is customizability that you have complete control over, and it doesn't ever break or take durability damage, which is amazing. So I absolutely understand that these kinds of cards have gotten a lot of hype, and I'm hyped to be able to get to them myself, honestly. They look really cool. And now with those big features out of the way, it's time to turn our attention to the changes made to the skills and abilities. And whoa, buddy, are there a lot of them. Starting off in the abilities, you'll now notice that there is only one form of Hunter. All specializations have been removed. And this one form only has one level. And what does it do? Well, everything. It highlights all of the POIs, all of your turn-ins. Well, apparently not the grid thingy, but yeah, it highlights all of the POIs in your area, which is really pretty powerful. According to the description, it highlights all POIs around you. The duration is only 20 seconds, though, and the radius is 48, which is about the same as it was before, I believe. But the really, really big change is now that it has a cooldown of a long 10 minutes. Yeah, 10 minutes. No more running around the vault, spamming Hunter, looking for something in nearly every room. And for all of that, the cost has also gone up fairly significantly, needing 4 skill points to learn. Now, I know I'm not alone in this. I loved Hunter, and I would always use a choice flask so that I could have the choice of specialization available once I'm into the vault and have a better idea of what I need to look for. And I think the team felt like this strategy was way too powerful, I guess. Also, because of cooldown reductions, especially at higher levels, you could make that skill activated every single room pretty much. And yeah, they just felt like that was too powerful. So now you're going to get to do it about once a vault, assuming you don't start at the very beginning in the first room and trigger Hunter, because why would you? That kind of doesn't make a lot of sense. So unfortunately, I feel like this is a huge nerf to the Hunter ability. Now we do have a brand new ability here in the form of Ice Bolt, which I mentioned earlier. Ice Bolt will summon a small bolt of ice, dealing no damage at all, but chilling mobs. And this one is meant for low levels. It has a really low mana cost of only 2 mana, a very short cooldown as well. And so this ability can be used rapidly and frequently inside the vaults, giving you the ability to chill mobs. You can have a total of 8 levels into Ice Bolt, and they only cost 1 point per. So it's really pretty easy to get into this. The mana cost never goes down, but the cooldown goes down and the duration is improved. And one more special thing about this is that when you throw it, it goes straight. There's no arc to it at all, which makes it a lot easier to hit those mobs that you want. As a bit of a reminder, what does it do? It makes the mobs chilled, which slows them as they try to chase after you. Definitely very handy as you're trying to run away from dangerous things. Now, the specialization Glacial Blast does much the same thing, except it does it in a large radius. Summons a large glacial blast that on impact explodes, chills, and potentially glacial imprisoned mobs in its radius for the duration of time. This has a longer cooldown and a higher mana cost. So this one has a big area of effect, and so you can see many things getting caught up in it. It doesn't trap them for very long, but it can be really good for dealing with multiple things. And there's that Glacial Imprisonment, meaning it's a one-hit kill. Very, very nice. And so far it seems like the reception for this new Ice Bolt is pretty good. It's nice to have an ability that's more specialized on low levels, like this one definitely seems to be. The other change to abilities is that the Summon Eternal ability has been removed. Summon Eternals has been in a bad place for a long time. It basically hasn't worked well for quite a long time. It's definitely been on the books to be fixed and rewritten, and that's taken a really long time to do. So they've removed it temporarily. Although, in my honest opinion, I think it might just be permanently. Nevertheless, it's good to have it off the page because it's not really in a good state and not something that people really are able to use that effectively. Now, moving on to the talents, there are an awful lot of changes here as well. First off, speed. Speed has been nerfed quite a bit, removing 2 full levels of speed down to only speed 2. I think essentially Iskall and crew decided that having speed 4 was just way too powerful. So now we only have speed 2. Additionally, all of these talents down here underneath the paired talents are all brand new. They have a lot of special applications, starting with Prime Amplification. If you're very healthy, you get increased area effect on your abilities. Hunter's Instinct can be really nice in that there's a small chance that when you kill a mob, it will trigger a Hunter ping just as if you had used your ability. It does require that you spend points in Hunter, however, but this can make that 10-minute cooldown so much less painful if you're getting triggers of Hunter whenever you kill a mob. The Purist gives you extra damage if you're only wearing scrappy armor. No legendaries, rares, etc. for you if you're going this route. The damage can certainly add up too. With 5 pieces of scrappy armor at level 4, that's a total of 50% extra damage. For only 4 skill points? Well, and giving up any better gear than scrappy? Honestly, 50% is nothing to sneeze at for that. Like I said, if you're willing to give up the better armor that you get with rares and epics and the like. The Bountiful Harvest skill increases item quantity, which is an incredible stat to be increasing, but you gotta be below 20% health. And that's not a fun place to be. Similarly, Treasure Seeker increases item rarity, again, while being below 20% health. This is a pretty big increase in item quantity and item rarity. 20% is pretty darn decent for only 4 points in each of the skills. But like I said, it's while you're below 20% health, which is a fairly precarious place to be. I'm sure there are some theory crafters out there that can figure out how to make this work in a build, but offhand, to me it seems like a pretty risky thing to do. The Frenzy skill lets you get multiple stacks of attack speed if you're killing mobs before it wears off. As long as you keep killing mobs in rapid succession, well, the Frenzy skill goes up and up, adding more and more stacks, letting you do faster and faster attacks as well. But as you go along, if that timer runs out, the whole Frenzy skill goes away and you gotta start over. Arcana is a lot like the Frenzy. This one gives you additional mana regeneration when you kill mobs in rapid succession. So does it make sense to get both Frenzy and Arcana? Look at those stacking effects that we're getting by killing all of these guys in rapid succession. Now all of that movement speed we lost by the nerf on the speed skill itself, that can all be regained by blazing skill. Again, this is going to work at much the same way, giving you multiple stacks of movement speed as you kill mobs in rapid succession. 10 stacks at 2% each gives us an extra 20% movement speed, which is the equivalent of 1 level of speed. This one's more expensive though, needing a total of 8 points to max out. And the last one in this vein is Lucky Momentum, giving you additional lucky hit chance when you kill mobs in rapid succession. Up to 8 stacks for an additional 8% of lucky hit chance, which is pretty substantial. Unfortunately, it also has an 8-point cost to get maxed into, but if you're going lucky hit on a build, I really feel like this is one of those that you just can't pass up. Now, in addition to all of those new abilities that we have, the Masteries abilities have also been completely reworked. The Masteries are these talents in the corner, and they belong to a group where you can only put a total of 10 points into all of the skills within this group. They used to be broken up by a mob type, spiders, pillagers, etc. Well, now they've been broken up by a different type, and that is the category within the vault of Horde, Champion, Dungeons, and Assassins. Horde Mastery gives you additional soul shards when killing Horde monsters. Assassin Mastery gives you a stun chance while fighting assassin mobs. And this can be particularly helpful because assassins are typically fast and hard to hit, so stunning them could be a big deal. Champions, of course, need lots of damage to kill, and so a Champion Mastery grants you additional damage against those champions, while Dungeon Mastery lets you have resistance against the dungeon mobs. Those dungeon mobs hit hard, and a little bit of resistance can certainly help out a lot. So I really like these new masteries. I think they work better within the lore of the vaults, especially as we keep adding new themes and new kinds of mobs. You know, like the sugar theme with those jelly mobs. Well, they didn't fit any of those mastery types initially, but those also do come in Horde and Assassin varieties, and so now they do. All told, this just opens the door for more creative types of themes and mobs that we'll see in the vaults, I think. Whew, that was certainly a lot, wasn't it? And we're not done yet. But we are in the home stretch. Now we're down to the other changes category of the patch notes. And these mostly deal with maybe new or changed items or new or changed recipes. The category of vault fruits has been doubled. We've got twice as many fruits, making the vaults twice as sweet. That's not funny, is it? Anyway, we're familiar with the kiwi adding 10 seconds, the lemon adding 30, and the orange adding a full 60. But now we've also got grapes adding 20, the mango adding 45, and the starfruit with a whopping 90. Just like before, the health reduction is the same for all of the fruits, so it's really about how much time you want to add to the vault and how many of these items you have. Interestingly, the original fruits, kiwis, lemons, and oranges are all available starting at level 20 for most completion crates, while the new fruits, the grapes, the mangoes, and the star fruits, well, the star fruits don't say where you get them, but the grapes and the mangoes are starting at level 50 inside your completion crates. So it leads me to wonder, starting at level 50, do you stop getting kiwis, lemons? No, I don't think so. That just means you get some different things in your crates and potentially have to carry more things into the vault and take up more room in your backpack, if you want to carry all of these in anyway. Keeping on the fruit train, vault apples and hardy apples have been removed, at least from any loot distribution. Any existing that you might have, well, that's all you're going to get, it seems. And now the vault apples just seem to have no purpose whatsoever. I'm sorry, Hellfire Mage, it seems like your dream of getting a cobalt apple back in the game is now dashed 100%. Similarly, raw magnetite has been removed from all the loot, and so the magnetite ingot is no longer used, and instead, magnets are crafted with the exact same ingredients as any other vault armor. It simplifies the process quite a bit, honestly, and magnetite mostly just cluttered up your inventory. So that's a change I can get behind. Also, vault ingots have been removed, at least their crafting recipe, and instead, vault alloy is now crafted directly with vaultite ingots. Also on the same note, since they happen to be on the same page here, repair cores have been removed from all loot drops in the vault. Now, the only way to get them is through the crafting recipe. In the research area, both AE and refined storage have had their cost reduced to only 2 knowledge stars. Additionally, there have been some changes to the iron generator mod so that you don't necessarily have to buy a power mod. The iron generator itself is now no longer gated by the mod purchase. The stone generator has been completely removed as well. It cannot be made anymore. The better generators like gold and diamond, they still require the research into iron generators. But having the iron generator itself available without a mod unlock should allow people to get into refined storage or applied energistics that much more quickly, which is what people always do anyway. This just makes it a little easier to get started. Now, one of the bigger changes in the other category has to deal with swapping things while you're in the vault, specifically vault armor. For a little while, we've had to worry about this with swords, so you don't switch to a looting sword while looting chests and a fighting sword while fighting mobs. Now, the same is also going to happen with vault gear, and maybe more drastically, also elytra. So swapping an elytra into my chest plate, see, it's grayed out and cannot be activated. I'm trying to trigger the elytra and it's just not going. Now I think one of the things that people did was to be way up high, swap into their elytra, jump down easy peasy, and then swap back out of their elytra and into their vault or chest plate and continue moving on. It was a great movement facilitator, I would say, but no longer. Now that the cooldown is there, we can trigger the elytra and do a little bit of gliding. The reverse is also true though too. If I swap in this chest plate, all of the extra ability power and healing efficiency that I have on this armor no longer function, at least until the timeout is complete. I'm honestly not terribly certain if the 13 armor works or not. The patch notes just say gear attributes, and I'm not sure if the armor value is part of the gear attribute or something else. My gut instinct says even that 13 armor isn't going to be applied while we're in the cooldown period. So I guess the takeaway here is that, yeah, you can still swap gear in the vaults, but there's a time penalty associated with it where you're probably going to be vulnerable and probably not going to be able to do what you really want to do. So maybe it's just best not to do it anymore. I think that's the intent from the team anyway. And one last change in the other category that's fairly major is that relics are no longer in the game. They have been removed. All relic booster packs, relic fragments themselves have been removed. Even the relic pedestal has no functionality. If you happen to have any relics, they don't do anything trying to open them up. And if you have any of those relics completed on a relic pedestal, they don't do anything to add vault time either anymore. So now the vault time is 25 minutes. Always, always, always. And of course there's a few more bug fixes, but I think those are generally not as important as the changes. This update has had so many changes, it's really hard to keep track of it all, and I really hope that I've done a good job to summarize these changes and help people navigate the changes as they move on to this update. As always, these things take quite a long time, and knowing that they've helped people really helps to motivate me to keep on making them. This one was really tough to do, honestly, and I'm not really sure why. So leave me a kind note in the comments, and I would be ever so appreciative. Or better yet, just subscribe. That would mean a lot as well. But just knowing that you're out there watching the video and getting some value from it is what I'm really after here, and I thank you all for making it to the end of the video. Good luck in your vaults, and remember, be excellent to each other. I'm out.